All right, welcome out to another episode of Drake's Dungeon. This is episode 4. I am Drake. Joining me is the person that we hoped to have on last episode, but unfortunately they got a little ill, and I think it was due to the overwhelming support of the community that they were able to get better so quickly. So thank you to the community on that one. Joining us today is one of our designers here at War Commander, Braden. Welcome, Braden.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on. And like I mentioned on the last episode, unfortunately you were under the weather. I think the community lit some candles on your behalf. I'm pretty sure they did some dances, possibly some prayers. They may have released some birds into the sky. Whatever they did, it's good to have you back with us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm incredibly thankful for sure. The couple of viral infections I got couldn't keep me down with their love and support. So
There
thank you
you
to them.
go. There you go. So the things that we're going to talk about this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit of some of the new units that have been out there, that have been recently put out into the game. We're going to be talking about Heroic Showdown, which you had a huge role in designing and bringing to the game. We're also going to talk about not Event 100, although we'll touch on that briefly, but Event 101. So 2 months from now, the event is going to be starting because you're going to be leading that up as well.
Yeah.
And maybe some other cool little treats that will sprinkle in there for you guys. So first off, let's just get into it. This month, we just dropped the controller, Laura, and Pegasus.
Yeah.
Right now, like the controller is, I think, a pretty big game changer. People are using its extreme range. I think they're having a lot of fun with it. What do you think?
Absolutely. Range is a stat in our game that has so much potential to allow for players to do so many different things. And the controller is it really establishes how big of a game changer Gen 4 units are. The controller just has so much versatility and gives the players so much agency, in my opinion. You can just let it ruby through the base and it'll blow stuff up and it'll do a great job of it. But those players that really want to get down and micro through a base and really carefully pick apart at it, they have so many options with that mega long range and that splash. There are some bases that are designed in a way where you can aim at certain targets and splash onto other targets behind that just don't have a chance to shoot at you. So I really like how that the controller actually gives a lot of potential to all sorts of players, no matter what their game style is. The other thing I love about it is because it's so powerful in itself, in smaller numbers, you don't need to just flood a platoon with it for it to be useful. You can have a few sprinkled into your platoon and still get a ton of use out of that unit, which leaves you open to doing or using a lot of other types of units to cover all your bases for what you'd want in the platoon. It's, like I said, it's a big game changer. I love that unit.
Yeah, my play style isn't so much finesse. I'll be honest. I'm not the most finesse player, but I have been, using in my platoons, putting the controllers in its own squad,
Right.
And kind of dropping those out there, letting them cause some chaos,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I start getting some aggro, if I start getting some bad guys at me, that's when I release my other troops to kind of cover them,
For
so
sure.
they can continue doing a lot of it's making me be a smarter player.
That's good. That's good.
My favorite thing about it.
I'm glad that it's doing that. It's definitely the most optimal way to use the controller is absolutely put something tanky in front of it to take any shots that you are going to take, but just really utilize the controller's long range and huge damage and splash. And I love just throwing Romero in front of those guys to keep them alive and just picking apart a base. It's there's nothing more satisfying than feeling like you're really outplaying a base. In my opinion, it's what I love about War Commander, and the controller has so much potential to do that. So I think the unit designer really nailed it with that one.
Absolutely. And we, like I mentioned, we also had the Laura, which is the hero version of the Sentry, and I think the Sentry has been an all-around well-received unit just because of its low point cost and just the ability to. It's the new Rifleman basically, and Laura's been killing it out there. But I think the big thing is this last week we just released the Pegasus, which is we haven't released a new defensive unit in a while. And we've never released a unit like the Pegasus before, a high altitude vehicle that's designed for base defense and, designed to be anti-air. What do you think about that?
When it was pitched, my first thought is, well, I don't even know if this is possible, but if it is, I'm incredibly excited. We figured out a way to make it work, and it is It is incredible in my opinion. I love the concept of it. I love its design. It's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
And so War Commander in the PvP space is and always has been, as far as I'm concerned, a give and take of giving offensive power and defensive power, and it shifts in meta. Right, there's always going to be something that is the most optimal way of clearing a base, and there's always going to be a setup that is typically the most optimal way of defending your base. And in the game, I would say currently, air attacks are incredibly powerful at picking apart bases, especially at higher levels. The Pegasus really gives a lot of power to defenders in an area of the game that I think they needed it. It's an incredible unit at denying the offender the ability to enter certain areas of the airspace. Things like the legendary Phantom, the Herald, the Shepherd, the Aces, all of these things that were previously kind of dominating the PvP meta have now really actually been given a force to reckon with, I would say, with the Pegasus.
Yeah, I think when you combine it with the screamer as well, so
Mm-hmm.
you have the screamer that will slow down everything coming in there, and then the
Yep.
Pegasus will just with its super fast turn speed as well. Like
Yeah.
it's slow movement speed, but really fast turn speed. And
Right.
you use the screamer to slow everything down, and then you use the Pegasus to just destroy it, break it apart.
That's certainly the most optimal way to use it. The thing people have to realize about units is they're always going to have drawbacks in certain areas. And yes, the Pegasus is slow as molasses, but it doesn't need to be fast. If you're using it the way that it's intended to be used, it can still be incredibly powerful. You're not going to want to use it to go try to chase down an ace. That would be slightly foolish, in my opinion. You are going to want to position it in a way where it's hovering over your key buildings and
Hmm.
denying the air attackers the ability to enter that space without taking some major pain. That's really where this unit shines. And with the Screamer's tech of slowing down those units massively so that they can't really exit that area very quickly, yeah, it definitely shines even more than just by itself. So yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, it really pushes the power into the defenders in an area where they really needed it. I think that it really has balanced out the power imbalance in PvP. Not that defenders didn't have the potential to defend their base, but it gives them even more potential against those top tier meta attacks.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big thing that's going to make people rethink the amount of efforts that they put into the Raptor and things like that, because we now basically have, in combination, I think, with the Screamer,
Mhm.
your Raptor killer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it addresses a lot of pain points that defenders had. It's I'm interested to see how the meta shifts as people obtain the Pegasus and level it up and get that tech on there. It should be interesting to see what those creative attackers try to do to become more optimal now that their air attacks may not be the most optimal way of
Yeah.
threatening somebody.
Well, you weren't able to come on last month, and last month was when we had the Braden unit actually came out, the unit named after you.
Yeah,
How's that feel to have a unit named after you?
that's surreal. Having a unit based on yourself is something that I obviously never thought would be a thing in my lifetime. Heck, working in this industry was something that I never really considered
Well,
until I got
and a
into
lot of
it.
people don't know this, but you have an actual jetpack in real life.
Well,
You
of course,
fly
yeah.
you fly around on a jetpack all the
Fly
time.
around downtown, get some weird looks, but it is what it is. It's the way you commute in this city. But no, it's amazing. I love it. The other thing too is ever since I started, ever since the escort came out, I should say, it has been my favorite unit in War Commander. Unabashedly, I am a Corpus fanboy. I love all of the factions, and they all have their potential to be useful in certain cases. But everyone knows it here that the escorts were my favorite unit to use. The gameplay just speaks to me. The concept of them speaks to me. So to hear that I was going to be able to be the escort hero was it was amazing. I'm flattered, and I love that now I can play as myself as my favorite unit in the game. It's awesome.
Yeah, and in the next event, you'll be able to unlock the full version
Yeah,
of the escort. So that'll be pretty cool.
yeah.
Well, so let's talk about Showdown and really the evolution of Showdown. Originally, you were actually. I mean, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that Showdown was kind of the first real idea you pitched as a designer.
It was actually, yeah. When I entered Design, Showdown was the first feature that didn't exist in the game that I wanted to bring to fruition. And what other people actually may not know too is it's gone through a lot of different iterations. I created
Hmm.
almost an entire iteration of Showdown that actually never became a full fledged game mode because I wanted to refine it and I actually pivoted quite far into the development of it. But yeah, Showdown is something that I've always wanted. I love the idea of horde modes in video games, and I saw the potential of Holdout, but I wanted to tweak the gameplay of Holdout in a way that allowed players to play slightly differently and utilize some more of their tools. Air being the biggest thing, of course.
Mhm.
So the original Showdown before the heroic Showdown came out, it didn't quite encapsulate the vision that I had for Showdown. And then I was talking to some team members, and they helped me come up with the idea of heroic Showdown, where you get to bring all of the heroes together and deploy them and earn heroic content, because that was a pain point the players had, is they wanted more, or they wanted a more streamlined avenue of obtaining heroic content in the game. And what better way to let them do that than bring all of their heroes together, which is something they previously couldn't do, as well as deploy air units in a horde mode. So all of it just came together so well, and I'm really happy with the final product of Heroic Showdown. There's obviously refinements that need to be made to make sure that players feel like they're earning enough XP to where they can earn everything that they want to earn, and we are working on refining that. But I think we're on the right track with Heroic Showdown for sure.
Yeah, and I think too, it's actually I think how great Heroic Showdown is kind of inspiring us to really commit to it as a company as well, like as just everybody on the game team. So much so that this is going to be kind of the major area of the game now, where you're going to be able to get stocking up on, your training tokens for heroes, your tech for heroes, unlocking heroes, and we're actually going to be starting that change coming up with event 100. This will be the first event where you're only going to be able to earn one hero token in this event.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing is this is going to give you an avenue where you don't have to grind like crazy in the event to unlock all the heroes. You'll be able to unlock one, but now you'll be able to have this whole new play mode that's going to be exclusively about the heroes.
Right.
Where you use the heroes, where you earn all the hero stuff. So I think that's going to be a really interesting change that's going to put a lot of, I think, positive focus back to the hero units,
Mm-hmm.
and a new creative way to build those up.
Absolutely. I think using heroes, that they have niche uses in regular platoons, and that's awesome and everything. But I think it stands to reason to me that it makes sense that in order to obtain content for a specific type of unit, players would like to use that unit. They'd like to use all of those units, all of those toys that they've collected, and being able to throw them all together, which you couldn't previously do. I hope is an enjoyable gameplay experience. And like you said, not everybody can maybe necessarily grind the event to the point where they get all of the heroic tokens that they want, as well as all the heroic tech and things like that. It's just
Mhm.
conglomerating all of that into one central area and one central game mode where they can pick and choose what they want to unlock for the heroes that they want. I think is putting us on the right track for what heroes should be in our game and how to power them up in our game.
Well, that makes an interesting segue because that's also, you're kind of behind the redesign of Holdout, and one of the people that's behind that, where we're switching more to a store mode.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we just did it the first time, this last time, and I think we had a lot of great feedback from players about how we went about it, and the value and XP, and I think we got a lot in mind. But why don't you talk a little bit about kind of where Holdout is going, or what inspired the change to Holdout?
Absolutely. Earning prizes after you beat a base is an interesting concept for sure. It does have a place in the game, but something that, a phrase that players and the team here especially hear me use often is player agency, giving the player the ability to control what they do and what they earn from their efforts. That is a big thing that I'm a firm believer of. And with the restructuring of Holdout to a store where you get to choose what you're unlocking from the experience that you're earning, I think really once we refine the payouts for what the efforts should be rewarding the player as far as how much XP they should be earning, it will feel better to be able to earn that XP through your efforts and be able to choose what you're pursuing, as opposed to being forced. Not forced, I shouldn't say forced, but as opposed to not having as much agency over the rewards that you are earning. I do think the store is going to be a more satisfying method of obtaining content in the game in the context of things like Heroic Showdown and Holdout. We're listening to the players for sure. We're implementing the feedback that we think will improve this game mode, and next time around, hopefully, we really get closer to our target of making players feel good about participating in the game mode and pursuing the content that they want to pursue.
That's awesome to hear. And that's one of the things that I think I love most about the War Commander and working on this team is that we really do listen to like what the players have to say and try to make it a great experience for them, one that they're going to want to come back to. And I am always happy to hear whenever I have conversations with any of the designers the things that they're going to be attempting to implement to really bring that product to the level that players are going to be happy with.
Absolutely. I'm on Discord probably more often than I should be, looking into there and listening to all the players and just seeing how they perceive the game and what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy. And just constantly conceptualizing and talking to team members about how can we make this game the game that they want to be playing more of? How can we make this experience more enjoyable for the player? At the end of the day, that 100% is what this game should be, is an enjoyable experience for the player. And if we can listen to the community and find ways that they have suggested to make the game more enjoyable for them, why would we not want to pursue that, right? So it just makes so much sense to be invested in the community and try to shape the game around what they're asking for within reason.
Hmm. Yeah, most definitely. So, Event 100 is coming up.
It is.
Our 100th event for War Commander. Now, I've been with the company almost 7 years now,
Wow.
and to have any game in this kind of live ops market of war games and stuff like that can reach 100 monthly events. I mean, it's crazy, and
It's bonkers. It really is.
it really is crazy, and we're coming up on the 100th event. It's going to be a huge one. It's going to be the big conclusion to everything with the Shadow faction and what Sarkis is up to, and I think players are going to be really happy with a lot of the surprises that we have in store. But just because we hit 100 doesn't mean that 101 and beyond isn't going to be just as crazy. And you're taking over the event planning for, is it 101 to 104?
Yeah, exactly. We do 4 events in an arc for the event, and I'm heading that next one. I'm incredibly excited for it. I We talked about before how we're invested in the community, we're listening to them, and we're trying to change the game in ways that is beneficial to them and to give them more enjoyment. And the event is obviously the big thing in War Commander. It's what most people participate in. It's what most people look forward to. But there's ways that we can change the structure of the event to even further give satisfaction to the players, I believe. I obviously can't talk in depth about the changes that we are making, but I can sort of if you're on Discord, you know how much I like to leak information, so I got to be
Yes.
careful here. But I want to. The team especially wants to restructure the event in ways that allows as many people as possible to experience the full story, because you should never be blocked out of that. And we want to, again, I'm going to use that word, give agency to the player to decide what difficulty level you are partaking in, as far as like which bases you're hitting and how difficult they are, and have the rewards be in line with that. We want players of all varying skill levels to be able to get just as much out of the event as each other. High level players often say that because they're so awesome and they have such awesome tools, they're able to clear through the event too quickly, and they feel like there isn't as much for them to do when in the last few days of the event. So we want to address that and give them stretch goals and things to pursue without changing the event structure entirely, so that you have to be that top tier player in order to be enjoying the event to its fullest, right? So we're trying to create avenues for all levels of players to be able to enjoy the event with this restructure. And I'm really excited about the things that we've been discussing and the implementations that we're going to have for that. Uh, we're obviously going to be changing up the rogue faction that's featured, and I'm really excited to be getting into the design of the rogue faction units. That's something that's excited me ever since I became a designer, is unit design. And we're going to be modernizing an old rogue faction that the players maybe haven't interacted with in a while. And I'm really excited to modernize that rogue faction and bring these creations to life, in combination with the art team that's been doing an awesome job with that as well. So I'm very excited for
Interesting.
the future of War Commander for sure.
So an old faction that we haven't seen in a while is going to be making a return, and they're going to probably be having some new toys and new kind of strategies.
It'll be shocking, Drake. It'll be shocking.
Okay, okay, I'm excited. I'm excited. And for those that don't know, while I definitely hear bits and pieces of what's coming up,
Mhm.
I actually don't really get to know a lot of this stuff until a little bit before players do. So I usually get surprised, just a few days before everybody out in the community actually gets to. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what it gets cooked up here.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no,
you
it's
off
all
there.
good. Go ahead.
I'm really what I want to achieve with this restructure of this, not restructure, I shouldn't say, evolution of this rogue faction is I want to again give the ability for the players to be able to feel like they're outsmarting this rogue faction and that they're outplaying the rogue faction. I want to further instill good feels for adopting the new unit because it should really make you feel like you are a large amount more powerful against this rogue faction if you're obtaining the new unit and designing that new unit in conjunction with these new rogue factions to make sure that it succeeds against them is really something that we're focusing on for this event. That's not to say that if you don't obtain it, you can't beat this new rogue faction, but you will feel really good about obtaining the new unit when playing against this rogue faction. They have a lot of new tools up their sleeves, but not so much that the player is going to feel like they can't achieve victory. You're going to feel good for achieving victory, hopefully, if we hit the mark with this, which I think we're getting close to.
That's awesome. And I mean, I think with the Gen 4 units that have been coming out so far, they've been huge game changers. So I'm looking forward to whatever the next one's going to be because I think, I'm like I mentioned before, I'm not a finesse player. I'm a pretty lazy player when it comes to it. And the Gen 4 stuff has made me kind of really, in a while, like drastically change up the way that my platoons are set up. So I think this is going to be some great stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, is there anything else coming down the pipe that you can maybe tease about?
Um, I mean, I teased quite a bit about the restructuring of the event,
You
which is
did,
something
you
I'm
did.
really excited for. Obviously, of course, the next Gen 4 unit is going to be Corpus's first introduction to Gen 4.
Hmm.
As a Corpus diehard, I'm incredibly excited for that. I love the way that they're going to be interacting and ideally demolishing the next rogue faction that comes in E101. The other thing I guess I'll talk about briefly is E100 is coming up. As you said, we sort of skipped over that. I've been doing a lot of bases for that event because it is the 100th event. I wanted to give players a lot of cool experiences beyond just kill all these buildings and kill all these units. So we were trying to give a lot of or create a lot of experiences that were going into those special objectives, like perhaps there's going to be a certain hero that's been recently introduced that was captured that needs to be saved. Perhaps there's going to be a hint of some other game types that have found their way into the event. For a base that you may want to, something along the lines of a horde mode that will eke its way in here. Um, there's a lot of different objectives that I'm trying to put into this event so that players have the best time possible. I'm really excited for them to experience all of that.
In addition, I think the players that took the time and got all the map pieces for the last couple events are really going to be happy with what they get to earn with that.
It has been almost impossible for me to keep my mouth shut about that. But yes, I think if you put the effort in to get all those map pieces, you are going to be thrilled with what you were able to obtain with that. That is such a cool concept that came to be, and I love the idea of just efforts throughout the months leading up to such an awesome reward. It's something that actually we're hoping to in some way keep moving forward with and finding new ways to introduce that concept of there is a side objective through the event. You don't have to interact with it if you don't want to, but if you put that effort in, you're going to be rewarded for it in that capstone event. That's a really cool concept in my opinion. I'm glad that we're dabbling with it with the Shadow Alliance. And yeah, those players that got those Sarkis map pieces, look forward to what you're going to be unlocking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Braden, thank you for taking the time to talk to the community. I know that you're very involved in Discord, and I know that the players love it. So I think hearing directly from you a lot of the stuff that's coming up is going to be pretty exciting for them. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, I'll be back in a month with another episode of Drake's Dungeon, and we'll talk to you then. Have fun out there, and as always, thank you for playing War Commander. Bye.